quick ball towards Whiteley. Squares it towards Chi.
Everywhere we go, everywhere we go, there's a Bromley boys making all the noise. Everywhere we go.
Yes, people. Welcome back to another quick, I was about to say episode, quick edition of From Bromley with Love, the YouTube channel. I'm your host, Smash St. Patrick Hewitt. And as you can see, for those of you who listened to the last episode, not the one where I did the video from Benfica Stadium, but the last From Bromley with Love episode, you would know that I'm currently in Lisbon. I'm actually flying back to London tonight, but not in enough time to watch the Bromley versus Barnet game live. I will watch it on TV. So look out for Peter Etherington will be doing the good, the bad, and the ugly on Substack about that particular match. I'll probably jump on tomorrow to talk about my analysis, have some guests on to talk about the analysis of the match itself. Remember, it's live on BT Sport. I think it's a 5:30 kickoff or 5:15 kickoff live on BT Sport today on Saturday. But this video I quickly wanted to do with regards to the news that came through last night. If I just bring it up on the screen. Of course, George Alexander has moved on. And when I say moved on, he's gone back out on loan again to Slough Town. People remember that last season, George went out on loan to Welling, started well, and then had a bit of an unhappy time at Welling, really and truly. I think he scored maybe 4 goals. I swear one of those games was a hat-trick, but spent a lot of time on bench, and eventually that loan was terminated. And then he had a far more successful loan at Slough. I think he scored 6 or 7 goals at Slough, although I think, again, one of those games, I think he may have scored 4 goals in one match. Again, correct me if I've got that wrong. But this move is a bit of a perplexing one. I've got 2 kind of views on it, but first and foremost, it's a perplexing move because George has played a lot in pre-season. And I think it would be fair to say that people may have expected, based on George's performances in pre-season, and certainly a lot of feedback that I've got from some of the key stakeholders, that George was looking sharp, scored a couple of goals, etc. If people remember, he'd signed a new contract last season, because I was under the impression, and this isn't from me being in the know, this is just my personal opinion, I was under the impression that George would leave last season. So when he went out on loan at Welling, for those of you who are kind of connoisseurs of the non-league game, generally speaking, if you spend the whole season out on loan from a National League side, you're not making it back into that side. That's an indicator that when your contract is up, you're going to move on. But George was worked contrary to that rule, because midway through last season, the club announced that George had signed a new contract. I'll get it clarified. I'll ask Andy Woodman when I next see him, but I assume that new contract that he signed takes him up to the end of this season, 2023-2024. And that was a surprise. If you had asked Bromley fans last season when George was out on loan, before the news came out that he'd signed a new contract, if you'd said to them, yeah, we're going to release him at the end of the season, I think pretty much most Bromley fans would have said, well, fair. He's not really shown that he has the skill set yet to be a big success at the National League level. And I think most would have said, yeah, National League South, let him go kick on there. And if he's good again, or good enough later on in his career, he comes into the National League Prem and so on and so forth. George, in his career at Bromley, I should have really brought the stats up before I press record, but let me just bring this up, because people sometimes love to falsify stats, you know. So George, in his career, has played 31 games for Bromley, 31 starts, I should say, for Bromley across his career since joining in August 2021. 6 sub-appearances in the league, 6 goals. So 31 starts in the National League, 6 sub-appearances, 6 goals, and he's got 1 other goal in cup competitions. Okay, so overall for Bromley, he's had 34 starts and 7 sub-appearances and 7 goals in total. Okay, that's across all competitions. You can decide for yourself if you think that's good enough. Me personally, I'm torn. I get the benefits to George's play. And before anybody says, Mash, you're being a hypocrite, I actually tweeted about 2-3 weeks ago, George may be the difference maker this season. It's definitely, and I think in one of my From Bromley, one of the last two From Bromley with Love articles that I wrote, I spoke about how this season is make or break for George Alexander. Similarly, Marcus Sablier, I said it's a make or break season for players like George Alexander and Marcus Sablier. And a couple of weeks ago, I tweeted and said, maybe this will be the breakthrough season for George because of how he was looking in pre-season. Evidently, maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe this isn't the breakthrough season for George. He's gone out on loan until Christmas. So we can't rule out that he will return and fight his way back into the squad, etc. But the omens don't bear well for him if he's gone out on loan pretty much as soon as the season has started. So let's look at the pros and cons. What if we kept George Alexander, what's the pros that he brings to this squad? The pros are he's the only striker currently in the club that gets beyond the final man, works on the defender's shoulder, will run into the channels and do what we call the dirty work, draw fouls, be a bit of a pest, be a bit of a nuisance. I don't think that's Cheek's game. Cheek can do it, but it's not his game. I don't think it's Marriott's game. It's definitely not Louis's game. Louis can do it as well, but it's not his game. So of the four strikers, George is the only one that can do that. Cool, and I get that. The question Bromley fans have to ask themselves is that enough to guarantee his spot in the side or to be a first team starter? Remember the stats I gave you at the beginning. 34 starts, 8 or whatever it was, sub appearances, 7 goals. Is that enough of a turn? Is that enough of a return for that skill set that he brings? Last season, Michael Cheek scored 16, 17 goals. Adam Marriott, who wasn't always a guaranteed starter and had loads of injury problems, scored 11 goals. Louis Dennis created umpteen goals and scored 9 goals. Those are proven, hear me out, proven talents at the National League level. Before anyone tries to tell me Adam Marriott isn't, the man had scored 20 plus goals for Barnet the season before he joined us. Louis, we already know what Louis can do, and Cheek is the National League's best striker in terms of over the course of his National League career, right? Is George an upgrade on any of those three in terms of goal output? 100% definitively no. The answer is no. Is George's running into the channels and willingness to do the dirty work enough of a payoff for not scoring goals? I'm not here necessarily to answer that question. I'll leave that up to you lot who are watching this video. But I would say no. I would say overall, the answer to that question is no. But here's the caveat. No, if Andy Woodman believes he can get an upgrade to George Alexander that benefits the squad to a greater level than George can. Hear me out in terms of what I said, though. I'm not saying a like-for-like player. I'm not saying that Andy Woodman must go out and get a player like George Alexander who's willing to run into the channels and do the dirty work and be a pest, etc. Call it a George Alexander, call it a George Porter type role, yeah? I'm not saying he must go like-for-like. But I am saying that if he feels he can get a goal-scoring upgrade on George Alexander who can better dovetail with Michael Cheek, Adam Marriott or Louis Dennis, then I totally understand why Andy would make this decision and move George on. Similarly, let's look at it another way. If Andy Woodman believes that he still needs more goals in the side, and remember that last video I did, I said, say God forbid Michael Cheek ever got injured. We've been fortunate. Since Michael Cheek joined in 2019, he's never had a long sustained period out with injury. Never. And we've benefited for that. Say God forbid Michael Cheek got injured. Who would you back to score the goals in his absence? Who would you back to do? Marriott would score double figures, but would you back him to score Michael Cheek double figures? Would you back Louis Dennis to score a Michael Cheek double figures set of goals? No, you wouldn't. So if Andy Woodman is saying to himself, I've got Louis, who dovetails brilliantly with Cheek. I've got Marriott, who is a penalty area poacher. Probably we've never really quite worked out how Marriott fits into the side, but he's a goal scorer. And obviously we've got Cheek. If you're getting a striker to be an addition to those three and complement those three and improve the quality of the squad, then George Alexander's got to be the one to go out the door to get the striker in. Remember, should I mention budget again? Bromley are never going to be a side with a budget where we can afford to have 5 strikers on the payroll. Someone's got to go for an upgrade to come in. And if it means that George Alexander's got to be the one to go, then George Alexander's got to be the one to go. And that's no hate on my part. That's no anti-George Alexander agenda on my part. To me, that's just hard, cold facts. If you're going to make a move and Woodman believes there is someone out there to improve the squad, someone's got to go out the door. Yes, there are legitimate question marks to say, so why did we have George playing all pre-season? George scored some goals and so on and so forth. Shouldn't we back him, etc., etc., etc.? All Bromley fans answer this cold, hard question as I bring this episode or conversation to a close. Do you believe that George Alexander can score the National League goals that make Bromley a contender? If the answer to that question is no, then I think you have to accept that it's the right thing to move him on loan, to bring someone else in. If you believe that his hard work compensates the lack of goals, cool. But do you think the hard work leads to a National League playoff position? Do you think that happens? Last season, Bromley were the sixth highest goal scorers in the National League. That was without George Alexander playing pretty much any minutes. Do you think that George Alexander is the difference maker from last season to this season? Or do you back the fact that Andy believes there's another striker he can get out there that is an upgrade? Listen, I'll leave that to you lot. I should really talk about the Barnet game as well, but this is just one under George Alexander. Go to the Twitter handle, at Bromley with Love, if you want to converse about the Barnet game. Like I say, Peter Etherington will be doing the good, the bad, and the ugly from the game. I'll be watching it on TV. I'll probably do some kind of live tweets about it, so on and so forth. Like the video, share this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel From Bromley with Love, and stay locked in for even more content. I'll see you lot soon. Peace.
Bromley play a quick ball towards Whiteley. Squares it towards Chi.